Welcome to the Right Call podcast with Elliot and Curtis. How you doing, Elliot?
I'm doing pretty good, yeah.
Great.
I think today, this is gonna be the last podcast we record before the election. So
yeah,
it's gonna be our last chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can squeeze one more in.
I'm open to it.
We're doing it on Monday.
By all means. But then, wait, it's gonna air.
I'm not here Monday.
You're not here Monday? Oh, you have Friday off. Well, we could just switch that up, no?
Monday off.
Fucking guy. Employees, man.
Where are you heading, Shems? Where are you
So I
going?
ain't doing
Not
anything.
here.
You're not here, eh?
No?
Who did you book?
Are you with a girl?
Yeah, where's the girl at?
You're not here with the girl?
Family time, bro.
If you were with the girl, I'd say, okay, fine.
What the fuck? I don't
Actually, you know what? Even better, bring her here, right? You can impress her.
know. Look at what I did.
We'll toss you a bunch of assists. We'll be like, Shems, where did you park the Porsche? And he'll be like, I didn't take it today. I wanted to keep it nice and relaxed. I'll help you out.
I saw this funny clip the other day. It was bro code at its finest. And there was this guy. So he's sitting down. He's like on the pier in California or somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so he's there with the girl. And this random, the random guy's holding the phone. And he walks up. He's like, yo, man. He's like, you paid for my mom's groceries the other day. And he's like, what? He goes like, yeah, you paid for my mom's groceries. Her credit card wasn't working and she needed food. She was hungry and you paid for it. Yeah. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, that was me. And dapped him up. And then the girl's looking at him like, oh my God, you're such a nice guy.
I saw that exact same video. I love how guys, we can just know right away.
Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
another clip. It's this guy. He's just like cooking at home with this girl. He's like, phone rings. Yeah, I'm on a date with this girl right now. What's up? And then 3 of his boys on the other side.
Yeah.
The first guy is just like, all right, so where do you need me to deliver the Ferraris? At my condo. And then the other guy picks up the phone saying, okay, so one of our sponsors is sending us the $8 million check. Which bank account do you want it in? The usual corporate one. All right. And then the third guy picks up and it's just like, okay, so you have an interview with so-and-so, like this big shot. Like, when are you available? I'll make it like next Tuesday. And you just have the girl in the background looking like,
What do you do? What do you do for work?
Bro code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like the entrance to in Goodfellas, one of the most, that scene. You know the amazing scene when Ray Liotta, he walks through the back of the bar to the club?
Yes.
Great scene.
It is.
Awesome cinema. Walks
yeah.
to the back, he's tipping everybody, like right to the front. But bring a chair over here, bring a table over here.
Yeah.
Anyways, but so yeah, we got an election coming up. Maybe we'll get another pod before that. Maybe we won't. Welcome to the Right Call podcast. I know we already said that, but I'll say it again. So we got a couple of things to cover. I kind of want to dive deep into Carney, which we've always been doing. I would like to talk about the differences with regards to the political platform, the policies that both candidates are putting forward. My opinion, kind of on its face, is I think the Liberal policies that they seem to be putting forward, and again, we'll go into more detail, are kind of just more continuous, more of the same of what's currently going on. And we're going to go over, I'm going to let you kind of quarterback this one here, and I'll offer my commentary, but we're going to give a report card. So the Liberals, as everyone knows, they've been in power for the last 10 years. I want to cover stuff like the ArriveCAN scandal, the GC strategy scandal, the SNC Lavalin scandal, the China election interference scandal, the Green Slush Fund scandal, the $1 billion paid out for hotels for immigrants scandal, the WE scandal, highest inflation in 30 years scandal, the 11 million Canadians on food bank scandal. That's not a scandal, but you know what I'm saying.
It's just sad.
The LNG mess up with Germany scandal, court finding. Anyway, you get the point. But there's like a lot of stuff. And look, every political party is not completely immune from getting from scandals. I mean, you can go onto ChatGPT and type in scandals for the conservative government before. They had their scandals as well. They prorogued government as well. They are politicians at the end of the day. But, there's a threshold. And, we know they're full of shit, and we know that they're going to do certain things. But eventually, I feel like they surpassed that threshold, for me at least, that I had. And this is at a point when media in the CBC doesn't even cover a lot of it. They'll lightly cover it, and then they'll just say like, oh, well, what's the big deal? We already covered this. They said, sorry, we're going to move on.
Well, that's exactly why I think we need to touch on this for a couple of reasons. One, the mainstream doesn't really touch it well, or they kind of brush it under the rug. Number two, also, I don't know about you, but I feel like our population in general has a very short memory.
People in general have a short memory.
You forget about it so quickly, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, we're about to go into an election. It's time. A lot of Canadians are undecided. They don't know who they want to vote for.
Yeah.
obviously it's important to look forward, right? But it's also important to know where we're coming from. What have the last 10 years amounted to? So here are, not the good stuff from the last 10 years, because there was a couple good moves as well, but honestly, it's kind of hard to find.
Yeah,
But
it is hard to find.
It is hard to find. I
Yeah.
mean, on top of my head, I'm like, okay, he legalized cannabis. I'm like, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Sure. Cool. All right.
Crickets.
Okay, the other thing I think he did pretty good, obviously, you and I running a business during the pandemic, there were a lot of programs put in place to help companies. But the issue that I have with that, and this is where I give kind of like a neutral pass for that, is that a lot of the problems we had here were also self-inflicted. A lot of the response the government had is what caused companies to need or to require those programs, to require that help. Other countries or other states did not do such a thing. Sweden was one of them. They just kept their economy going, and luckily they didn't have to print what we're going to discuss, but billions upon billions of dollars to help companies. Same thing with Florida, for example, right? So
I think with the benefit of hindsight, and you can say this without people losing their mind anymore, most people would agree that the response to COVID with regards to lockdowns was overblown in the West. I think
Absolutely.
I'd say 8 out of 10 people would probably agree with that
No,
statement. And yeah, you're right. If you shut down the economy and then you basically stop businesses, not all businesses, luckily I'm like a service-based business, so we're able to run pretty much the same.
Of course.
But if you're a manufacturer, you're a restaurant, you're you have to be present at the office in order to make revenue, in order to make an income. So yeah, if you can't do that, then and the government's blocking you, well, I would expect to get money.
For sure.
And then which led to the inflationary times and a very, very, very complicated. But yeah, I would kind of agree with you. Like, yes, it was good, but I don't think he did it out of the goodness of his heart. I think he actually just did that because politically it looked really good.
It did.
Because they were just like, you ever seen the meme where money printer go burr?
yeah, of course.
Well, they just print a bunch of money and they just give it out to everybody. And
Absolutely,
yeah.
and we'll touch on that because
Yeah.
I have the figures of how much was printed, which led to inflation.
Yeah.
And they tried to scapegoat that shit on
Yeah, yeah,
Ukraine, on Russia, on corporate greed,
Yeah.
on just about everything, but their
Yeah.
own decision.
It was
to print.
transitory.
Yeah, oh my. But that's another thing too. How much do they gaslight us? First of all, it's transitory. There's no inflation. It's just why can't they just stop lying to us?
Well, it's like all of a sudden too, if you notice with central bankers, the target used to be 2%.
Yep.
They never talk about 2% anymore.
No,
It's
they don't,
closer
yeah.
to 3.5 now, and they're normalizing or attempting to normalize 3% inflation every year.
Absolutely.
And just another reason why the gap between the rich and the poor just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If you don't own assets, that 3%, unless you're getting a 3% increase on your salary every single year, that is going to affect you. And to be honest, I think they're constantly, and again, this is not just Canada, this is like every government.
Yeah.
They're always massaging the numbers. You know what I mean? Like you get the inflation 3%, you're like, what are you talking about 3%? You're like, my grocery bill was up more than 3% last year.
Absolutely.
And then, it's the corporate greed.
Yep.
It's them. So very complex. There's definitely a lot of moving parts for stuff like that. But I guess the point we're trying to make is I'll just take a tiny tangent. Stuff has kind of broken or isn't as efficient as it was pre-COVID since they did all this money printing, and money printing will distort a lot of society, and the average person can't understand that. And so if you're wondering why your paycheck doesn't go anywhere, yes, there's taxes, yes, there's the cost of living, but a lot of it has to do with money printing. And the people with assets, because they hold the assets, so it's just worth, they still hold it, it's just worth more in terms of dollars. But if you're someone that doesn't hold the asset, your purchasing power just drops because you don't have anything that can actually keep up with the inflation that's going up.
And this disproportionately affects younger people because
Yes.
as you're coming into your career or your life,
They
as
have
an
no
adult,
assets.
You have no assets.
Yep.
You have to acquire it. And
Yep.
the only way most people will acquire it is work a job, get money, save up, and purchase those assets. But you need to be able to earn enough to keep up with the inflation. Because again, right now, and this is the big issue with Canadian housing crisis, is that the cost of housing increases faster than people's ability to save for a down payment, which makes it completely unattainable. Flat out. You cannot earn enough right now in an average job to be able to afford a home.
No.
It's over.
And here's the other tricky part. So I learned this, and I was listening to a podcast. It was the Angry Mortgage Broker. He's great, does a lot of great coverage out of Toronto. And so essentially, for municipal, okay, let me start from the beginning. We've covered this before. roughly one third the cost to build a house is development charges and fees. Development charges are just another word for taxes charged by the municipality. So you want to build $1 million home, it's going to cost you roughly $333,000 in development charges plus. Okay, that goes into the cost, the value of the house.
Yeah,
it wasn't like this 20 years ago, not even close. So what the municipalities did is this. Typically speaking, boomers vote. Okay, the millennials don't go to vote in municipal elections, generally speaking, and it's a lot easier to swallow so if a boomer, like, you're basically voting on your property taxes, like, did they go up, did they go down, or did they stay the same? So if they wanted to pass this cost on for the increased or just the fact that it's more expensive to run municipalities, they could technically increase the property taxes for the already current homeowners within that municipality, but that doesn't poll well, right? No one likes to see their taxes go up. So what do the municipalities do? They sneak it into the development charges for new people trying to get into the housing market. Okay, this is factual. So what it does, and again, it just goes to show you the boomers are insulated. Okay, or I should say homeowners, which are, vastly, a lot of them are boomers. But anyone who bought a home, let's say 2010 and before, you guys have been completely insulated from this. You were not paying 33% of the value of that home in development charges and taxes. So new people trying to get into the housing market today, like us, or someone who's 30, 35, you want to start a family, you have to pay that additional 33% on development charges for the actual construction of the house, especially if it's a brand new build.
Absolutely.
So just a little food for thought. That's kind of the reality of why, as opposed to just increasing the property taxes for current homeowners, they're like, no, we're going to lose the next election. Let's just sneak it in the back end for new people coming into the housing market.
And it's always new taxes. And I'll take a different tangent. But okay, so traveling the world and going to live abroad, which I do quite often, really kind of opens up your eyes, because I get to share some of the absolute ludicrous realities of being a Canadian or a Quebecois with some people abroad and just watch their reactions. So yesterday I got in the mail my renewal for my car registration, which I
thought you were going to say your car insurance. He's a client of ours.
That's all good. You guys are good with that. Number one, go with KBD. It won't be too steep every year. But no, car registration. And I know you touched on this. I saw a video you posted on TikTok a couple months ago. Yeah. But for me, I was godsmacked.
How much was yours?
Roughly $400. $400. I was expecting the usual $220, whatever, right? $400. And then I look at a breakdown, and this is where, honestly, it's mind-blowing, and this is what people find funny. Transport en commun, public transport, $180. $180. I've never taken a bus in my life. I am now subsidizing at the tune of $15 a month, right, in public transport. Isn't that the cost of like a few tickets or something, Well,
yeah, I thought that's what you pay for when you buy a ticket.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So
like you would think that would be able to support the program and maybe make a profit.
Maybe, right? And the funny thing too is that if you and I want to take the bus or the train or whatever, we still got to buy a ticket, on top of the $180 we paid. So I send this to a few friends in France and Finland and Portugal, and I'm like, this is why, or even in Ukraine, all right? Yeah. And I send a picture of it. I'm like, look, this is how much it costs me every year just to have a car on the road. That's not even the license, right? That's an extra $200 a year.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's every year. I'm like, every year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, plus it's $180 for public transport. They're like, well, do you get it for free? I'm like, nah, you don't.
And they keep sneaking these costs in.
Yeah.
And by the way, don't take our word for it. So I got an interesting graph. I was going to show this a little bit later, but this is actually good timing. So Richard Diaz of the Looney Hour, I love these guys. I listen to their podcasts on a weekly basis. And Richard, if you're listening to this, which I highly doubt you are, but honestly, so they had two liberals on last week, and Richard was bringing up some really, really, really good points. But I could hear in his tone, he was kind of, because he didn't want to be confrontational on the interview. So Rich, don't be shy, man. You're a really smart guy, and you can kind of, if I were you, or I would push back a little bit more. You're very articulate and you're very good at delivering a message. But anyways, Rich Diaz, this is on Twitter, on X. So updated Canadian taxes and social contributions data. 2024 federal government tax take is at a 22-year high. Canada, we are being punked. So if you take a look at the graph, we'll just zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so the blue line is the federal taxes, the red line is the provincial taxes, and then you have the gray or greenish line, I'm kind of colorblind, which is the local tax receipt as a percent of GDP. If you're kind of lost and if you're not actually listening to this and you're not watching the video, 22 years, so as a percentage of GDP, the federal government is taking more money. They are at a 22-year high. So if you feel like you're paying more taxes, it's because you are paying more taxes. And you know what? Like a lot of the services are starting to break. And here, you know what? While we're at it, I'll dive right into the next one. So here we go. Let's look at the public sector. So if you feel like, or you're asking questions, well, hey, where are my taxes going? So again, Richard Diaz, Canada's public sector needs reform. This is one of his tweets. Public sector employment as a share of total employment is at a 30-year excluding COVID high. Meanwhile, public sector productivity has been declining for 4 years, a 10-year low. So we're paying more in taxes. We're less productive than we used to. And the workforce, the people that actually work within the public sector are at all-time highs.
And their productivity
is
lower,
dropping.
Dropping, yeah.
Yes. Now, there are many reasons for that. I would like to say, and I firmly believe this, that I think a lot of that has to do with remote work.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some people that work for the federal government remotely. They don't work.
It's a joke.
They actually don't work. And I'm not trying to shit on people that work for the federal government. If people are going to get away with what they're allowed to get away with, but but
if there's no oversight, they're going to get away.
There
with
is
it.
no oversight.
Well, that's the thing.
There is no oversight. So the point that anyways, I thought this was a good time. I'll let you keep talking. I just want to bring it up. So if you feel like you're paying more taxes, we are paying more taxes.
Absolutely.
And essentially, and you know what, I'll just say this. This is kind of like my macro view of what the Conservatives want to do. A lot of times it's like, and I feel this is kind of what Doge is trying to accomplish. A lot of people are going to probably disagree with this as well. They're not in reality trying to cut all of the programs. They're trying to make the programs run more efficiently.
Exactly.
That's what they're trying to do. And when you have a big bloated public sector, so it'd be the equivalent of having a business. So I employ 30 people. Let's say my revenue remains constant and all of a sudden my productivity remains constant. And then I hire another 30 people, but the revenue stays the same. I don't have a business anymore because I can't generate a profit. The public sector are not, they are immune to these private market, free market forces. So when what's essentially happening is the government is taking all of your taxes. Are there still social services? Of course there are. But what they're doing is they're essentially just funneling it through Ottawa and into the public sector, and they're just hiring a bunch of people that they don't need to be hiring. Like public services haven't gotten better. Wait times at hospitals are at all-time highs. If you call the CRA, like good luck trying to get in touch with the CRA. I mean, it's just like you can give example after example after example of the issue we have here. And right now, and this is, the Liberals have been saying this for 10 years that they're going to fix this. And this is just the problem that I have with Carney. And, some people are saying that, oh, he's going to move the party back to the center. And maybe he will, but I'm not convinced that he will. Not because he doesn't necessarily want to, and maybe he doesn't, but let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he actually does want to move the party back to the center. He has the same team.
Yeah, it's the exact same people.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. And
it's like if you're going into a business, again, I'll just give the same analogy. If you're going into the business and the crew is hostile, you're not going to fix anything.
Absolutely not.
You have to change the crew. So that's the issue I have with the Liberal plan right now.
It's everyone, like people are saying, yeah, but Trudeau's out of there. Okay, cool, but his entire cabinet is the exact same. The people who are in charge of running every department are the exact same.
Like I don't necessarily have a big issue with Carney himself. I have my bones to pick with him, but it's more the party. It's more the institution itself I feel is rotten. And it needs to start over.
Absolutely.
That's my opinion.
Another thing too, okay, is that, and I read this a lot, it's like, okay, but Conservatives want to cut, or they want to reform departments. And this is going to lead to a loss of public service. And this is where, honestly, it really bothers me in Canada mentality. Cutting budgets doesn't lead to a loss of public service. People always look at it and say the only way to solve all the issues we have, right, are wait times in hospitals, are crumbling infrastructures, just to throw more money at it. That ain't the solution. That doesn't work. It's about going in, seeing where the systemic problems are, increasing efficiency a la Doge, and that's what Doge is doing. And to give an idea, right, just it goes to show you don't need more people or more money to make or to have a better service. I have a list here, and I found that fascinating, right? Which company, and this is a really cool metric, it's revenue per employee, all right? So you look at various big companies, and you can break it down, the revenues per employee. And this is where you realize that the number one has a tiny little staff and yet generates untold amounts of money. So out of curiosity, and this one I didn't even know, which company has the highest revenue per employee in the world? Valve?
I think there's, I want to say it's like a new, I don't know the name of it. It's like a new company that's using AI. They have 100 million ARR and they're a team of 30. They basically make coding, they allow you to code without having to be a coder. I don't know the name of the company though. Anyways, I'm all ears though.
You're right up there with those numbers, but the number one company that generates the most revenue per employee?
Apple.
No, not even close. OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Damn.
OnlyFans.
Interesting.
They reported a revenue of $1.3 billion on a staffing of 42 employees.
Wow, that's efficiency, baby.
So that breaks down to
sex sells.
Yeah, I know. It's like sex sells. $30.95 million, almost $31 million per employee. Compare that to Apple, that is at $2.38 million per employee.
$31 million per employee.
Per employee. Insane.
Man, technology, eh?
Microsoft is at 1.1 million per employee. That just goes to show. So you can build a multi-billion or a billion-dollar company on a tiny little staff.
Yeah.
This applies to government as well. You do not, I mean, look, CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, has a bureaucrat per capita considerably higher than the IRS.
3x.
Yeah,
3x.
3x, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Is Canada Revenue Agency more efficient than the IRS? I would
No,
venture to say probably fucking not.
I would argue that they're actually less efficient. And like, you could also, there's other arguments to put in place. Like our tax code is more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, we're going through our taxes right now. I had a transaction last year, purchased my dad. It is complicated. And then the accountant is like sending me this stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's like reading Chinese.
Yep.
And I'm like, why does this need to be so complicated? You know what I mean? It's like, can it just be like a flat tax? Anyways, that's a whole other debate.
But actually, you know, and this is big as well, right? So is it Quebec or Canada that wanted to create a simplified self-reporting tax tool or self-reporting tax code? So if you have a simplified filing, right, which is most people have a simplified filing. We don't have crazy capital gains or deductions or this or that.
Your income.
It's just your income, right? So Canada actually, and kudos to them, wanted to implement a simplified filing. It can be done online by yourself through Canada Revenue Agency. And of course, lobbyists from TurboTax.
I was about to say that. They probably don't want it.
They don't want that.
Or EY, like why would accountants want to have a more simple tax code? Because they make money when the tax code is complicated. Because I'm looking at it going, this is Chinese. I don't know how to do this. I call my accountant, then after the accountant goes, oh, here's a $20,000 bill. I'm like, what did you do? And they're like, well, you can't do it without me, so pay me.
Exactly. But then going back to traveling the world again, beautiful thing is exchanging ideas. So I'm talking to someone from Finland, and that person in Finland, they're telling me, okay, so today is our tax day. I'm like, okay, so it's like tax filing day? No. It's the day where we figure out how much we owe or receive by the government. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, we log on to our government portal and all your taxes for the year and your expenses and everything's tied to your social security number. It's all compiled and you have your result. You're going to get back X amount of euros or you're going to owe X amount of euros.
Oh, they do it for you?
They do it for you.
Oh, wow.
The government does it for you. Because
nice.
Guess what? They have access to all the data anyways.
Yeah.
And that's the meme. That's funny. It's like, okay, you owe us taxes. Okay, but how much do I owe you?
I don't
Figure it
know.
out. Okay, but what if I don't give the right amount? Then you go to jail. Well, how do you know? Because we know. So why don't you just tell me? Because it's up to you to figure it out.
And like that's the IRS is the same way.
Pretty
It's
much.
like it is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
But now, so what I wanted to do right before, since this is probably or maybe not, but it's going to air right before the election, I wanted to do a little bit of a audit, right? A little bit of a report card for the last 9 years under the Liberal leadership. So Canada was with one party for nearly 10 years. And I wanted to cover a few points that I think were not covered enough, or were brushed under the rug, or perhaps
Or
even
been forgotten.
right?
Yeah.
Memory hold. It was memory hold by Canadians. So hopefully we can get a few good clips out and kind of get the word out, and maybe help people who are on the fence, undecided, make up their mind on what to do in the next election. So I highlighted, and you mentioned it earlier, but I highlighted a few things. So each one of them, I got a little executive summary, 30 to 60 seconds, and a few important facts. And then we can dive deep, comments, say what you think, or maybe you're probably going to have some very good points to add. So let's start with the first one, the ArriveCAN app, right? So how does a simple app cost more than a fucking Hollywood blockbuster, right? So the ArriveCAN app launched during the pandemic to track travelers' health info, and it became a symbol of government mismanagement after reports revealed bloated costs, shady contracting, and a lack of oversight. Originally budgeted at $80,000, it ballooned to over $54 million, with contractor allegedly paid millions for minimal work. A Auditor General report found zero documentation for key decisions. And by the way, I run a tech company. Believe me, everything is documented, right? So this is shady as fuck. So Auditor General report found zero documentation for key decisions, while GC Strategies, a two-person IT firm with deep government ties, received $11 million in contracts without competition. There was no request for proposal. Critics call it a case study in wasteful outsourcing, while the government blames pandemic urgency. Okay? Some speculate this is just the tip of the iceberg in federal procurement scandals. Just to touch on this, right? Again, it was slated to cost $80,000. It became $54 million. There was no record or paper trail of just about every decision. One tiny consulting firm received $11 million via non-competitive contracts.
And no consequences.
No consequences.
Yep.
And it was found later on that GC Strategies founders had very close links to the Canada Border Service Agency higher-ups, high-ranking officials. And another thing that's fucking is ghost developers. So some developers build over $1,100 a day to the government, but yet the roles were never defined, and we cannot track where that work went.
And this, guys, this is what we're talking about. When your taxes are going up, it's going to places like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not actually going to social services. And I've given this analogy before. It's like the equivalent of, like UNICEF.
Oh, yeah.
For every dollar, I think it's like 8 cents on the dollar actually makes it to giving money to the poor.
Mm-hmm.
So the blob, the institution itself, just sucks up all of the money.
Everything.
And nothing actually ever makes it to the services. So again, we'll just reiterate, just to cut you off for a little bit.
No, go.
Like we're when we say we want to drop taxes, we're not saying we need to necessarily cut social services.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be more efficient, and we have to stop the waste, fraud, and abuse.
Absolutely.
Because this is clearly waste, fraud, and abuse with no consequences. So it just sends a message to the market like, well, you can do this too. Like, why not try and get money and get a cushy job with the federal government? Even if you get caught, I mean, yeah, you'll be under the gun for a month, and then you're fine.
And then it's memory hold again.
Yeah.
You just forget about it.
And you just made a couple $1 million.
Imagine, like, this two-person firm, $11 million. They did no work. They did nothing.
And imagine the kickbacks for the people that actually gave them the jobs too.
Absolutely. And this we don't know about, but I am certain that some people higher ups at CBSA or at the federal government receive kickbacks. Because
For sure.
11 million for two guys to do nothing.
Yes. And it's just like this is a prime example. Throwing more money at the problem isn't going to fix anything. We have to get more efficient. We have to run the country more like a business.
Absolutely.
Continue.
All right, so there's another scandal, the SNC-Lavalin scandal, right? So the SNC-Lavalin affair rocked Canadian politics in 2019, exposing backroom pressure, ethical breaches, and historic government crisis. The scandal began when Jody Wilson-Raybould, then Justice Minister, alleged she was improperly pressured by the Prime Minister's office to intervene in the SNC-Lavalin criminal prosecution, which, by the way, was over bribery charges in Libya. SNC was facing corruption charges, accused of $48 million bribes in Libya. Mm-hmm. And they were risking a 10-year federal contract ban. You pity f***ing do, but that's probably actually most where the gravy train comes, right? So
they're Quebec-based, I think.
They are.
Yeah.
So when she was pressured to intervene and to drop the charges, she refused. and she was demoted, leading to accusations of political interference and justice. Just so people know, and this is a long-standing tradition, even though the Attorney General or the Minister of Justice is technically working for the Prime Minister, they are their employee. They're supposed to be independent. They're supposed to be on the side doing their own thing, and the Prime Minister is not supposed to intervene ever in justice. It's supposed to be an independent branch. In this case, it was not, and she received direct pressure to drop everything. And why is that? Why would she receive, pressure? Well, you have to understand that a lot of the SNC people are really close to Trudeau, very close to Trudeau.
How much money do they donate to the party?
That would be a very good thing to go look at.
I bet you
right?
it's not zero.
Probably. So the PMO actually pushed Wilson, so the Minister of Justice, to offer a deferred prosecution agreement, basically a corporate plea deal. The fallout of this is that she was kicked out of the Liberal caucus and eventually fired because of her refusal to basically do Trudeau's bidding in this. She wanted to go with the justice, which is her role. And later on, a ethics commissioner found that Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, broke conflict of interest rules, or actually the Conflict of Interest Act. Again, we don't really talk about that. Go figure. So, you know what? I have the number here. Sorry, I took it down. SNC donated to the Liberals over $120,000.
That's it. It's not that much.
That's not that much.
Yeah, it's not that much for a company that's making,
yeah,
I bet over $100 million profit a year.
But don't forget, this is public information. And in Canada, we have donation limits. You know, we don't have like super PACs like in the US where, a super PAC can donate millions upon millions of dollars. So there's other ways, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big one. And it led again to the firing of the fucking Justice Minister. We don't talk about it. Like, I mean, do you remember when that shit was airing everywhere? Yeah. And it's like,
well, it's just like, I just found it interesting because coming from a party that really, they like to talk about DEI and all that kind of stuff. And I think she was like a part native or something, or she was a woman at least. So for a company that talks about women empowerment and feminism and DEI, and the next thing you know, it's like, they say it, but in practice, I don't think they actually believe in any of that.
Never. It's you believe in it as long.
Yeah. And it's more just the point where, because it's like, just to play devil's advocate a little bit. If you're in Libya, I mean, I don't do business in Libya, but I would think that if you want to get a contract in Libya, it's probably the way things work. So I kind of get where SNC Lavalin is coming from, and that's not the point. The point is that Trudeau's cabinet was kind of trying to get in the middle of this lady trying to do her job. That's the bigger story.
Absolutely. The fact that SNC try to bribe officials in Libya, I don't care, because the reality is over there on the ground, that's how it works, right? Yeah. The scandal is the fact that the Prime Minister's office directly pressured the Attorney General of Canada to drop charges to protect these individuals. Yeah. And that's not okay. You're not supposed to do that. Yeah. And that flies against the administration of justice as well, right? Justice is supposed to, in an ideal world, to be blind. It doesn't matter who commits a crime. It doesn't matter your ranking in society. It's supposed to apply to you equally. It's supposed
to be objective.
Yeah. In this instance, clearly it's not. Another nice one, the Green Slush Fund, right? So, I mean, I'm figuring this out more and more now. Going green is just the biggest grift there is. It's just a grift. It's absolutely just
Wasn't our climate czar, Stephen Guilbeault, caught in the middle of that too? He has, that guy's, he has a face that you're just like...
I don't condone violence.
Anyways,
but some people.
That's all I'm gonna say. Like he has that face, and you're like, I don't trust this guy.
Nah. It's a very specific face. So Canada's Sustainable Development Technology is a green tech fund, right? That is embroiled in allegations of mismanagement, conflict of interest, and questionable grants, dubbed the Green Slush Fund scandal. In 2023, a whistleblower report revealed that $38 million of ineligible projects were approved under lax oversight, including funding a startup with ties to the board members of the Slush Fund, or the Green Fund, same thing, Slush Fund, Green Fund. So a huge conflict of interest right there. $217,000 to a Quebec winery because it claimed that it was green tech.
Cool.
Nice. $400,000 for a luxury electric boat company with no clear emissions impact. What the fuck? An independent investigation confirmed significant gaps in governance, forcing the Liberals to freeze new funding. Critics call it climate capitalism, greenwashing taxpayer money for well-connected players. Supporters argue that the STDC has funded legit clean tech, but the scandal fuels distrust in Canada's climate spending, of course. So the fund, by the way, the total fund is managed at a tune of $1.6 billion. It's a good amount of money. The bombshell report came out that nearly 40 million was ineligible, and it was just given to people with conflicts of interest, including companies which 5 board members are directly linked to. So 5 board members of that fund received money for the companies that they're backing.
I just asked ChatGPT, so I just said, can you give us some conflicts of interest? So just to add on to this,
Yeah,
a
please.
federal audit revealed 186 instances of conflict of interest with the SDTC, with funds awarded to companies linked to board members, notably André-Lise Métaux, a Cycle Capital official and SDTC board member, was involved in approving significant funding to her own company. And just to kind of talk about Stephen Guilbeault, our beloved climate czar. So allegations involving Stephen Guilbeault, association with Cycle Capital. So Guilbeault previously served as a strategic advisor for Cycle Capital, a Quebec-based venture capital firm, for a decade before entering politics. He reportedly received shares, equity, in the company as part of his compensation and continues to hold a passive interest. Cycle Capital received substantial funding from SDTC, raising concerns about potential conflicts of interest. So just yet another example. They take the money from the taxpayers.
Yeah.
It doesn't go to any of the services that they say they're going to implement or improve, and it basically pads their pockets. So again, throwing more money at the problem and increasing taxes isn't going to fix a damn thing.
But it will make some people richer.
It'll definitely make some people richer.
Yeah. Not the wealth redistribution that people like
No.
to claim about, but
The people in Ottawa will get richer off
Absolutely.
of this. They're it's essentially, it's like you ever see the movie Casino? And they talk about with Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
So when the casinos were doing, the casinos were printing money back. Well, they still print money, but so back in the days when the mob was running the casino, so be making a bunch of money, and then the gangsters back home, they would skim the top.
Right.
So skim is just another word for, they take a little cut. So $1 million comes in, they take 50,000. Another million comes in, they take another 50,000. You just skim. I would equate the federal government and the people, the powers that be in Ottawa, as the same thing. Money cycles through Ottawa.
Absolutely.
They take their cut here and there.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it never ends up making it to the actual social services and welfare programs that it's actually supposed to make it to.
Always.
And so it's like, just I can't believe when people actually say, well, you know what, I'm pretty well off. I think we should be paying more taxes. And in theory, honestly, man, if government actually worked like that and they were honest, I would be totally okay with that. But in practice, that's not how it actually works. And it's always funny how people, they go like, corporations are evil. And then you just take another institution in government, which is essentially just another group of people that I would argue are more corrupt than
Absolutely.
than big
Because they
corporations.
can pass laws and change
Yes.
the game.
And so it's basically like they just do the same thing. And people think like, oh, it's government, that they have our best intentions at heart.
I know.
It's like, no, guys, it's just another institution. It's another group of people that have power, and they're going to do whatever they can do to, make sure that they're doing this for their own gain and best interest.
And it goes even deeper when you start realizing that in politics, sociopaths or psychopaths are overly represented because their ability to feign empathy and to be completely ruthless about, using, manipulating, cheating people makes them ideal candidates to rise in power. Any organization that is centered around power will have more psychopath within it, rising through the ranks. There's a very good chance.
They have no conscience.
They have no conscience.
Yeah.
So there's a very good chance that your elected official is an undiagnosed psychopath, and you're going to be there telling me that they have your best interest at heart. That's impossible, So keep that in mind. Governments are not there to protect you. They've actually, as a matter of fact, they probably despise you. They probably hate you. You know, they see you as nothing more than just another cow to use and abuse for money for their own gains. I trust a heck of a lot more private corporations, and not to say that there's not scandals and greed and whatnot in private corporations.
Of course there are.
But statistically, there's less representation of psychopaths within a greater private industry than there is within government.
Interesting.
Speaking of, greed and whatnot, this I can't believe we're not talking about, because we are in an election cycle, right? The Canadian Securities Intelligence Services, CSIS, has confirmed that the Chinese government interfered in Canada's 2019 and 2021 federal elections. A public inquiry concluded that while these actions did not alter the election outcomes, no, everyone was voting for Trudeau because he's so charming. He's
so handsome.
So handsome. They aimed to influence candidate selections and public opinion. China's effort included disinformation campaigns, covert funding, and attempts to infiltrate political institutions. CSIS warns that such interference poses a significant threat to Canada's democratic processes. By the way, it's still happening right now. It's not like anything changed, because the Liberal government refused to touch on that topic at all. So if they were attempting to infiltrate political institutions then, I wonder how well they've done so in the last 6 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by the way, I asked, because I was curious, I just wanted some facts and figures. I asked ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and Grok information, because I wanted data on this scandal. GPT and Grok were more than happy to return information. DeepSeek said, "I am not capable of talking on this topic."
Really? Interesting.
Wonder why.
Interesting.
Wonder why.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, yeah. But this is, again, concerning right now, especially considering that Carney just recently was embroiled in another little scandal when one.
Well, there was a lie too, and I forget the name of the gentleman, the Chinese gentleman, and they're like, "Do you have any comment to make about that photo or that meeting you had with them?" He's like, "I never met with them. You can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail." And then about a day later, a photo surfaced of him with those exact people. So it's just like another lie. And there's a lot. I don't know what's going on with Chinese interference in the Canadian election, and I'm sure they're trying to do this across the world. I'm sure they're trying to influence American elections too. So this is not unique just to Canada. My theory is maybe, again, this is just food for thought. This is my, I guess you can say, conspiracy theory. China, if Mark Carney is actually serious about becoming less reliant on the U.S., the next biggest partner they would want to do business with and trade with would logically be China,
probably.
And I think maybe China's going, well, you know what? Let's get Carney in power. He's going to be easier to deal with. We'll put it that way, easier to deal with than a Pierre Poilievre. At least maybe that's what they think. Therefore, we would like to have Mark Carney be the next prime minister. But there's definitely been reports surfacing that the Chinese do want Mark Carney to win the next election.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like, this is not to the benefit of Canada. I want to have someone who's going to run the country that doesn't have globalist ties. And I don't necessarily have an issue with globalism. What I have an issue with is that when you rely, let's just tie it back to Brookfield. When you rely on this, the world is deglobalizing right now. And if all the money you make has been made based or built on top of globalism, if the world starts to deglobalize, that is not good for Brookfield's pockets. That is not good for the World Trade Organization's pockets. That is not good for the World Economic Forum's pockets. Yeah. The world is clearly deglobalizing right now. And I feel like Carney and Europe and other, countries and institutions around the world, they want to continue this gravy train. And again, agree or disagree with it, Trump has made it very clear that they are attempting to deglobalize, and there's going to be a lot of shakeups moving forward.
Yeah.
And no one knows how this is actually going to play out. But, in a world with, if the U.S. is always leading the charge and the U.S. is responsible for 35% of global consumption, and they're going, you know what, we're going to deglobalize. Well, it doesn't really matter what you think. If that's what they're going to do, then the world will most likely start to deglobalize.
Absolutely.
And if we're going to be going into a world that is going to be deglobalized, I don't want to have a guy that wants to continue the globalization, because that's not the world that's going to be in front of us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like he was equipped maybe 10, 15 years ago. He would be very equipped to deal with the world as it was, but that's not where the world is going.
It's a good
Does
point.
that make sense? Kind of like
It makes complete sense. And it's also funny because I know I've made a few claims over the months about how I think China is behind a lot of the BS happening in Canada, right?
I would agree. And like we can't put our finger on it for like what exactly it is, but it's like what like it's something, you know?
There's something. And
Yeah.
now with this, knowing that they're pushing for a liberal government to, be elected or trying to influence people, I'm like, it kind of gives credibility or credence to what I've been saying. But you're right. I can't put my finger. I'm like, what is the end goal? Is it economic? Is it power? Is it turning Canada into a makeshift puppet state because we're so close to the US? A little bit like how, sorry to say, but Ukraine is the puppet state of the West, close to Russia, right? Is it what it? I don't know. I don't know, but all I can say is it always seems to lead back to China when it comes to Canada, and we do have a huge Chinese population. That's not the issue. The issue is it seems that it's been in that Chinese population that immigrated here, a lot of them seems to have ties to the CPP, or the CCP.
CCP, yeah.
The CCP. And I've mentioned that before, that a list of over 2 million Chinese Communist Party members was leaked. And they are in just about every strata of society. And
Yeah.
these people are living normal lives. You will never know about it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, their allegiance is to the Chinese Communist Party.
I think it's kind of like the issue we have right now with the housing market, and like people, a lot of people are well, actually not that many, but defaults are starting to tick up, and the banks are kind of just like, they don't even have an answer. They're kind of just like, all right, well, let's just see where this goes.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think it's kind of like with the Chinese, they're like, all right, let's just gain influence on a country.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even exactly sure what we want to do yet, but let's just gain influence and we'll figure it out after. That's kind of like my feeling. And again, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an expert on Chinese interference, but
Neither do I, but all we know is that like there's a lot of things that go on behind, and that's the thing too. People have to just open up their eyes and realize there's a lot of shady shit that happens behind the scenes. People will sit down and watch a Netflix show about like some political drama or some crazy stories and be like, yeah, that's insane, man. How can these people in the movie not realize it's happening right in front of their eyes? And it's like, okay, well, dude, if you don't think that happens in real life as well, you're out of your mind. I mean, you look at history, there's been scandals that came out of governments like drugging or even like poisoning their own citizen. That's came out. Like governments will do that to people. I mean, there's a lot of scandals that have happened, from like faking attacks to start wars and whatnot. Those are all declassified stuff. So to think that today you wouldn't have foreign governments trying to infiltrate like our country, it's kind of ludicrous to think it doesn't happen. The beauty of our system, it's a democratic system, so that's great. People have a choice. The downside of a democratic system is that it can be lawfully infiltrated. If you send enough people here that have ties to your cause and they become citizen and they get to vote, eventually you get to shift the entire system in a very legal democratic fashion, but you've kind of been infiltrated. Anyways, speaking of infiltration, Canada spent over $1 billion on housing asylum seekers in hotels. Okay? Not just housing asylum seekers. No. Canada spent over $1 billion housing asylum seekers in hotels since 2017. With record-breaking immigration levels and a worsening housing crisis, the program has sparked outrage over sky-high costs and a lack of transparency. The biggest issue is this. We were being charged, or the Canadian government was being charged over $300 per night for some rooms, which is far above the market rate. Here, the average rate, the market rate for a normal room, we're not talking about, the Hilton or the Four Seasons here, is $150 a night. So we're paying twice that price, right? Between 2017 and 2024, there was over $1 billion spent just on hotel rooms. The peak spending was in 2023 alone, when we spent $180 million just on hotel rooms. Yeah, what the fuck? Just on hotels. We spent $1 billion on hotels. And you want government to manage your money? You want governments to tax you more and manage your money?
No, thank you.
It doesn't make sense.
No, thank you.
Once again, a thing too to keep in mind, because this is never enough. A CBSA audit came out showing that some deals were awarded, again, without competition, with no competitive biddings. I wonder why? Well, perhaps it's because some of the firms that received the contracts had ties to the Liberal Party. This was revealed by the National Post.
It's a common theme.
And most importantly, when pressed on the issue, the government refused to disclose the address or the location of the hotels that received those contracts, citing security issues.
Okay.
So once again, lack of accountability. It's beautiful. Can you believe that $1 billion for hotels?
Yeah, they had the same thing in New York, and like these ones were actually, they were illegal immigrants. Yeah, the city of New York was rightfully pissed off about that. And this is the part. Sometimes people are like, it's an 80-20 issue. 20% of the people are going to say, no, well, we have to house them. We have to help them. You know, all the people that, or most of the people that lived in gated communities will probably say that. But the other 80% of the population are going to go, no, I don't want my money going towards illegal immigrants. I don't want to be paying for their hotel rooms. No,
Yeah.
I'm not down with that.
Absolutely.
So it's an 80-20 issue. And I know sometimes it sparks outrage. And people just go, well, no, we have to help them. It's like, okay, fine. We have a big enough issue we got enough problems ourselves here in Canada, and just some of the points, like, you know, highest crime rate ever on record, 11 million Canadians that are going to the food bank. That's another record. The housing costs, we have a housing crisis. It's so expensive.
Absolutely.
Hospital wait times. Like, can't we get our own room in order first before helping other people? And that's the point that we're just trying to make. And then, you know, if they actually said, okay, here are the hotels, this is what we did. And then when you press them to just get the information, they're shifty and they don't want to give you the answer. So then, you know, like time out. What's going on here? Like, if this was for, you know, if you said, yes, we need to help them, they're all going to die, they're going to be executed or something. This is the cost. This is the hotel we're sending them to. All right, fine.
Yeah, good
and
point.
now you don't even want to give the information.
I think it's, again, kickbacks, right? But I love the whole, why don't we take care of our own ecosystem first? Until we have no homelessness or no veterans that are fucking killing themselves, or, you know, just poverty and Canadians going to food banks, why are we so hell-bent on helping the rest of the world? We cannot help the rest of the world if we cannot take care of our own backyard first and foremost. You know, the good old adage, like, you have to love yourself first before you can love someone else, you know? Well, it's the exact same thing. How about we fix our own country? By doing so, we will be helping millions of people.
Yes.
And then once we figure that shit out, we'll be in a better position to help others.
Yes.
You know,
Do you mind if I take this one, the LNG with the Germany?
I know you're really good on that one. So
I'll
go ahead.
I'll throw that one
hop
in.
hop
So
in.
and this kind of just ties into it. Like, if we could actually, and it ties into being less dependent on the United States. So LNG, liquid natural gas, Germany, because they had issues with Russia, and for anyone that lives in Germany or knows information about Germany, they are experiencing very, very high energy costs. So to heat your house, and the other bad thing about having high energy costs is that it actually affects the industrial sector. So if they're a big industrial power, they manufacture a lot of cars, they're obviously having issues. But if all of a sudden the cost to produce whatever it is that you're producing, if the energy costs drive up and they're going up 3, 4, 5x, it becomes more expensive. And then all of a sudden other businesses don't want to come and invest in the country because, like, well, hold on, your energy costs are way too high. So what happened was Germany came in literally with their hat and said, hi, can we have some of your liquid natural gas? And Justin Trudeau said, I don't see a business case for this. And you know what ended up happening? Do you know what Germany is doing now? Because they have no oil coming in from Russia, and because they shut down all of their nuclear power plants. So you know what they're doing now?
No idea.
They're burning coal. They're burning record amounts of coal. So this is how it all ties in. Justin Trudeau, so liquid natural gas burns twice as clean as coal. If we took out the liquid natural gas from Canada and sent it over to Germany, in the aggregate, the CO2 emissions that would be going into the world would actually be less, because they would be using LNG as opposed to using coal to power, you know, their society, to power all of their industrial plants. This is the reality. So these people say they care about the environment. No. He cares about the appearance that he cares about the environment.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he cares about.
Absolutely.
So this is just like a massive mistake that we made. And it's like, I don't understand it. And now we're back in this pickle that we have with the United States. So yeah, that's the big LNG. And by the way, this would have been billions of dollars in royalties for Canada, millions of dollars in taxes. This would have helped our society, and we didn't want to do it. So It's just like a massive example of just mismanagement coming from the Liberal Party. And also too, just like this little caveat, the cherry on top, and I know I just mentioned it, had they sent this or had they made a deal with Germany and other countries within Europe, I'll repeat, they would be burning liquid natural gas, which burns twice as clean as coal, as opposed to burning coal. That's what they would be doing, which would be better for the environment in the aggregate.
But it's okay. We can just tax our citizen into cleaning up the world with our carbon tax.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I can't fact check this. I read it really quickly and I have not looked into it, but I still say it. Something along the lines that if Canada's carbon emission went to zero, like we just disappeared from the map, it would not even account for the yearly increase of carbon output that China has.
Yes, and that's we're about. Some people say 1.5. Some people say 2% for the total amount of CO2 emissions that go into the world. So if we fade it off, you're absolutely right. Like you hit the nail on the head there. So and this is the part where for Carney, like, look, I get this net zero. I get that we want to have renewable energy. I get that the world needs to become more green, but if two countries in China and India are not on board, which it appears they are not, it's not going to make a bit of difference. And here's why they're not, especially in particular China. They want to win the AI race.
Absolutely.
In order to win the AI, and this is paramount, because if you win the AI race, you will be the military, you'll dominate the world.
It's global domination, yes.
Yes, like you will be the AI leader, and in exchange, in turn, you will therefore be the military leader. This is where the world is going. In order to be the AI leader, you need to have abundant energy. And so right now, it's a race to essentially drive the cost of energy to as low as possible. They are doing everything they can. They're firing up nuclear plants. They're firing up coal plants. They're using liquid natural gas. They're using everything they can get their hands on. So again, if in a perfect world where everyone wanted to be green and everyone was on the same page, all right, fine, maybe this theory or maybe this strategy would work for the West and work for Canada. And by the way, the US is not following this either because they also want to win the AI war.
Absolutely.
And in order to win the AI war, you have to have abundant and cheap energy. This is factual. So again, Mark Carney wrote a book on net zero. He's an architect for these policies, and he is not going to let this go. I think this is his life's work.
It's like his magnum opus. There you go. It's his Mona Lisa. That's what he wants.
Yes, and I just want to hear. We'll just take like a little turn here, build more pipe, and I'm going to bring up Daigneault Smith, and I think we talked about this last week. But so this just so here let's play this.
Skepticism about ESG labels or sustainable labels, and that again is one of the reasons we're having this ruthless, relentless focus on net zero, because in the end, look, we can't stabilize the climate unless we get to net zero, and it's as simple, these are hard numbers. Your emissions are either A or B, they're going up or down, and if they're going down, are they going down consistent with the science? We anchor it in the science, the same science the UN and others use for the 1.5 degree objectives.
Dude, we're not living in that world anymore, man. And it's just, so Daigneault Smith. So it would appear Mark J. Carney is now just fine with Canada continuing to be 100% reliant on the United States to purchase all of our oil and gas and to purchase all of the fuel used by Ontario and Quebec from the US through Line 5. I'm not sure what Line 5 is. This is absurd, irrational, and anti-Canadian in every respect. It's also the exact opposite of what he promised while in Alberta a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this earlier. They'll say whatever the hell they have to say to get elected. It's crazy. Does he want Canada to be strong, prosperous, and independent or not? And so this is an article coming from the National Post, and says Carney says pipelines are not necessarily among major projects to prioritize. Now, again, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he does plan to make pipelines, but you would think, based on the situation we're in right now, this should be a non-negotiable for both parties. Absolutely. Liberals and conservatives should say, no, we are absolutely going to build pipelines across Canada. It's going to help us become less reliant on the United States. It's going to help us take the oil out of the ground, and it's going to help us become more prosperous because, reality check for Canadians, oil pays for a lot of our social services. It helps keep our dollar propped up. It pays for a lot of our welfare programs. Without oil, woo, baby, we'd have a big problem. And then, so there's another podcast I was listening to. Mark Carney, and again, this is in his book, 75%. This is what he believes. He wants to keep 75% of the world's fossil fuels in the ground. So, you know, he's not answering questions. He's being shifty. Maybe he does actually end up developing pipelines, but I don't know. Like, what if he doesn't?
Oh, he loves pipelines as long as it's not in Canada.
And as long as, like, yeah, if it's an investment with Brookfield, but that I'm like almost hoping that maybe he'll just get Brookfield to invest. Like, honestly, at this point, I don't care. Like, just build it. If it's gonna help Canada, let it help Canada. I really don't care.
I have an idea, right? I say Canada. I say Parliament should pass an act selling 100% of their assets and the land to Brookfield, and then after that, Brookfield will develop the shit out of it, and we'll be wealthy again. You know, speaking of wealth.
Yes.
Let's talk about inflation, because again, we talked about it a little bit, but it's been memory hold as well now because the media is telling us that it's cooled down. You know, I think the Canadian government's failed its people over the pandemic and over the last 5 years, like absolutely failed its people. So Canada is facing its worst inflation in 30 plus years, with prices skyrocketing on essentials like food, gas, and housing. In June 2022, inflation hit a 41-year high of 8.1%. Crushing household budgets and triggering aggressive Bank of Canada rate hikes. During the pandemic, the Trudeau government unleashed historic spending. And this is why, okay, it's not greed, it's not Russia and Ukraine. This is the cause of the inflation. During the pandemic, the Trudeau government unleashed historic spending, ballooning Canada's federal debt by $700+ billion, the largest peacetime fiscal expansion in history. The way it was done is the Bank of Canada enabled this by printing $400 billion through bond buying programs. While inflation, and this is what you can manipulate data and people's perception all the time with this. While inflation has cooled to roughly 3% in 2024, prices aren't falling. They're just rising slower. That's what people don't get.
Yes.
Many Canadians feel permanently poor with wages lagging behind cumulative inflation. Just inflation by the number, by the way, okay? So peak inflation in 2022 was 8.1%, the highest since 1981. Mm-hmm. The federal debt to GDP spiked from 31% in 2019 to 48% in 2023. That's a huge spike, right? That's like 20%, 25%. Mm-hmm. More than that, actually. It's like 33%. Interest costs, okay, this is big. In 2024, it costs us $46.5 billion per year just on interest payment. It is the fourth largest budget item. It's not healthcare. I mean, we want to put money in healthcare, infrastructure, defense, education, you name it. It's very hard to do when your fourth budget item is interest.
We can't only shit on Canada because like a lot of the West did this, but you're absolutely right. They should definitely not have been spending as much as they were spending, because when the government just starts spending money, it's essentially the inflation was higher than it needed to be. It was going to go up regardless, just because of all the money printing and COVID and like all that kind of stuff. Just basically, you know, money printer go burr. Like we were going to have the inflation, but you know, the U.S. was doing the same thing, Canada was doing the same thing. But you're absolutely right. And then people. This is the part, and again, why there's such a massive gap between the rich and the poor growing, and people probably feel like, hey man, since COVID, like I got poor. If you're not a business owner and you don't have assets, people are probably scratching their head being like, how come I can't afford anything anymore? Yeah. It wasn't like this 10 years ago.
Nope.
Inflation is the biggest tax on the middle class that there is, and people don't understand it because your purchasing power drops. Mm-hmm. And so when Chrystia Freeland was doing like just spending money here, spending money there, and just to keep it simple, I'm not going to like go into all of the details. It's like when governments spend that amount of money, the deficit increases. If the deficit increases, that can be inflationary A, and then to your point, that can also increase the interest expense. So people think that money grows on trees with regards to government. No, you can either increase tax revenues or you can borrow the money in the form of a bond. So when you borrow money, you have to pay an interest back just like anything else. Yep. And if your interest expense keeps going up and going up and going up and going up and going up, well, that needs to be paid. Who is going to pay for that? The people of Canada are going to pay for that.
Speaking of which, okay, and this is just so people understand, because it's all abstract, right? It's a fucking fugazi when you don't really understand. So let me break it down, okay? The per person debt during the pandemic, during the money printing machine goes brr, right? Every Canadian had $18,000 added to their names as a personal debt in Canada. Basically, effectively, everyone now is $18,000 poorer or more indebted ever since the Trudeau government printed all that money.
And if you think about just food for thought, so think about $18,000, but think about all the asset holders. So let's just look at the top 5% of the population.
Sure.
So would you agree with the fact that their wealth probably went up a lot more than 18,000?
Absolutely.
It was essentially a looting of the middle class. And this is not just unique to Canada, by the way. This is like, this is the West, debatably all over the world. And like, do you ever notice, Tucker Carlson was talking about this, and I thought it was good. He goes, he lived in Washington for a long time. He's around a lot of wealth. Yeah. He's like, none of my friends had private jets 10 years ago because they all have private jets now. Yeah. Their stock portfolio is booming. Their houses are worth more. Like this, when you monetize the debt, which essentially just means make your dollar worth less. Again, I'll repeat, asset holders are fine. Oh, yeah. It's the middle class that get absolutely decimated. And the question though is like, what do we actually do about it? And I'm honestly of the opinion that it needs to break. Like I don't think like if we, and US, Canada too, if 60%, this is a US stat, 60% of the 50 or 60, anyways, say 50, it's still high, have under a 6th grade reading capability, 50% of the population.
Jeez.
So you have, like all through globalism, all this money printing, all the asset inflation, you have the top 5% that have gotten super, super, super wealthy, super rich. And then there's just everyone else. And this gap just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. Now, what do we do about this? That I very complicated question I don't have an answer to. But this is kind of what's happening in the West. This is what's happening in Canada. And this is why I think the root cause of all of the issues that are going on right now in the West has to do with money printing. And the bankers and the global institutions will tell you, well, no, this is for the better good.
Yeah. Well, they always say that. It's always for the greater good.
Yeah, I don't know if I can necessarily agree with that, but there's definitely some stuff going on. Do you want to finish up this stuff here, and we'll move on to the how much? What are we at? 1 hour 10? I'm gonna guess. 110. Okay. All right, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll finish up.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about all of them. I'll just touch. I'll touch on 2 that for me are very, very important.
Sure.
All right. So talk about food banks, right? I think that's important to people because we don't realize it, but Canada is facing an unprecedented hunger crisis with 1 in 3 Canadians, 11 million people, now relying on food banks or food assistance programs, the highest level in history. Like this is unprecedented. Demand has doubled since 2019, driven by soaring food prices, stagnant wages, and unaffordable housing. So food inflation, we've seen food inflation of 27% since 2020, with some items like bread, milk, and meat up to, and that's the thing. So that's overall, right? Yeah. Some items, bread, milk, meat, up 30 to 50%. That's insane in 5 years. Yeah. You combine that with housing costs, 60% of food bank users cite rent or mortgage as the primary burden. So because they have to prioritize a roof over their head, they can't afford food. And this is, by the way, a working poor crisis. You may think like, okay, well, all these people go into food banks, right? They're just homeless or they're broke, they don't have a job. No. 25% of users have jobs, but still can't afford groceries.
Yeah.
That's 25% of 11 million. That's over, let's call it 2.7 million people have jobs. They do what they're supposed to do and they still can't afford food.
Yeah. Those are all the people who are going to vote conservative, or majority of them who are going to vote conservative, and all the people who have gotten rich off of the asset inflation phenomenon that's been happening over the last couple of years. Overwhelmingly, a lot of them are going to end up voting for Liberal because life has been pretty good for them.
But you know what's
they're insulated.
What's fucked up is that it's seniors as well. So food bank use is up 73% amongst retirees.
Probably like the poorer seniors, right? The ones
poor, of course, like
right? Someone in the West Island here who owns $1 million home. Probably not the food bank.
Yeah, but you know what? Like I've heard this before. From actually a paramedic that used to work in the West Island, and they'd be called to these crazy McMansions, right? Yeah. And they'd go inside and they're empty.
Really?
I believe it. It's just a shell. There's no furniture inside.
I believe it.
It's all about appearances.
Yeah.
Not for all of them, obviously.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Some of them.
I mean, sometimes we get clients here calling too. You'd be surprised, man. Sometimes we get clients calling because one of the questions, okay, who's the mortgage with? these big homes, they'll have, 2 mortgages on it. If you have 2 mortgages on a house, it's because, you can't afford the first one. So you get a second mortgage, and it's basically just a sign that they're strapped. They're living beyond their means. And you're right, it's kind of a case of keeping up with the Joneses, I guess.
Always, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the West Island, at least where we're from, is a lot of that, right? So what do you drive? Where do you live? What house do you have? And it's always about trying
We could say about like any wealthy neighborhood, I guess.
Probably,
right? So it's like,
probably.
Yeah.
But again, it's weird because I contrast that, again, just coming back from Portugal, and it's absolutely not like that. People are overall generally pretty poor, and they're just very non-pretentious. It's just, hey, whatever. I'm kind of torn, right? Because they say they don't care about money. Is it just a symptom of not having any, and you say you don't care about money? Because I think money is important, personally, But at the same time, it's cool to see that they've kind of just like put that aside, and they just live their life. They're happy. They seem happy.
But then there's like the other argument too. You go to like the poorest countries in the world, and sometimes I bet you a lot of them are happier than a lot of billionaires.
Well, I've noticed this.
Like
the first time I went to Cuba, I was 16 years old, and that's the one thing that blew my mind. It's fucking poor. Obviously, it's a communist country.
Yeah.
I've never met people so happy.
Yeah.
So cheerful. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and there's like, and I'm just going to say this because I was discussing this with my dad the other day. So the gap between the rich and the poor is massively expanding, right? But if you look at it in reality, I would argue that someone who lives today in 2025 has a better life than the richest person that lived 300 years ago. You still have access to better healthcare. Mm-hmm. You got TV, you have entertainment. Maybe you can still afford a car. Mm-hmm. So yes, you don't have as much as that rich person who lives down the street from you. But in the grand scheme of things, your life is better off than someone that was, rich 200, 300 years ago. So it's always like, yeah, people end up getting, I don't really know where I'm going with this. I guess just want to say it's more philosophical, I guess. It's like, yes, the gap between the rich and poor is getting massive. But, if you take a step back and actually turn off your TV and just reflect on what you actually own, you're probably pretty good.
All things considered, I mean, our quality of life is, because this is what's hard, right? Is that we don't have the same opportunities as we had back in the days, or our parents had back in the days. But overall, Canadians and just the West, it's doing pretty good in terms of quality of life.
Yeah, man. And that's sometimes because, we get riled up and, we can rile up the crowd and all that kind of stuff. You're like, no, this isn't right. And yeah, I don't like the fact that they're wasting a lot of money in this and that. I don't enjoy that, obviously. But sometimes I'll just, detox or try and detox. You turn off the TV, you turn off X, you turn off the internet, turn off social media. And next thing you know, you're like, hey, you know what? I got it pretty good here right now. And then, so there's like those two camps.
It's a
you
balance,
know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, for me, it was hockey taught me this, right? I was always taught you compare yourself to better, not to worse, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is obviously, like, I think you and I, we're both very competitive individuals. We look at this, we're like, we're being fucking taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. Our lives could be so much better. Mm-hmm. We could be richer. We could be, better off, you name it. And we're just like, fuck. We're so close to being able to have all this. If only a few things would change. If only a few people would wake up and realize it. Mm-hmm. But it's true that if you just look where you are today, and you're like, yeah, life ain't so fucking bad.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that it's snowing right now, mid-April.
Yeah.
Life ain't so
But
bad.
if you want to have like a nice quiet life and no TV, no nothing, some people, I mean, it wouldn't be for me, but some people like that. I bet you they have an awesome life.
Probably.
And they don't watch us. They don't listen to the news. They don't listen to anything.
Sometimes I want to just homestead, dude. I want to like go out in the middle of nowhere, buy a plot of land, and just
just get a tent and stuff like that. Just totally disconnect. Yeah, you'd probably be happier.
For sure. Yeah. All right, last point we're going to talk about here, and then after that we'll go into other topics.
We'll finish up with the policies that are put forth.
Good idea. So the crime rate, all right, and this is a huge one. We touched on it a little bit last week, but I want to touch on it again. Canada's crime rate right now has surged to its highest levels since 2007, with violent offenses up 39% over the past decade, according to StatsCan. Major cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton are seeing record homicides, random attacks, and gang violence. This is driven by a few things, obviously. Opioid crisis spillover, right? So we have drug turf wars, meth fuel violence. Like, people are going nuts, especially in Vancouver. You don't want to go to Surrey.
I've never been, but
don't go to Surrey, bro. Don't go to Surrey. Yeah. Bad. Shout out to my Surrey people. I know a few people there, and it's wild. Bail reform failures, right? So repeat violent offenders keep walking free. This is a huge issue with the Liberals, by the way. And policing shortages. Interestingly enough, in 2015, 85% of Canadians trusted police. Today, it's down to 65%. That's a huge drop. That's systemic.
It's all the
failure,
liberal voters.
So yeah, and probably.
I'm kidding. I have no idea.
So yeah. So in terms of violent crime rate, so homicides, we've had 874 in 2023. That's the highest level since 1992. That's huge. Gun violence, we've had over 3,500 shootings last year. And by the way, that's up 91% in Toronto since 2015. That's double.
Yeah, Toronto's bad.
That's bad. And random attacks too, by the way. This is not like a case of like, oh, I'm not a drug dealer, I'm not a gang member, I should be fine. No, 1 in 5 assaults are done by strangers. And that's up by 44%.
And by the way, this data, a lot of it is not even reported, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Like there's a lot, sometimes the cops are just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, they do just forget it, right?
Yeah.
So imagine like 1 in 5 assaults are done by a stranger. Like you're just casually living your life and some fucking stranger attacks you. That's up by 44% since 2019. Again, it's like, that's huge. 40% of crimes are done by repeat offenders. That's insane. There's a shortage of police. Obviously, 15% of the RCMP positions are vacant right now. By the way, great paying jobs. People should go into police. And the median age of gun offenders is 22 years old, right? Keep in mind, it's not legal gun owners clearly here. We're talking about gang members, right? So again, Canada right now, economically, and crime rate, it's becoming dangerous, man. Even in Montreal, pretty much every day I hear of a shooting happening in Montreal.
Yeah. And Toronto, like GTA, just coming from the car insurance guy, we've talked about this before. Car thefts are through I think it's up 450% over the past 10 years.
Well, I got right here. Car theft has doubled.
It's more than that.
It's now
Doubled
quoted
since when?
Since 2015.
No.
More than that?
That's wrong. GTA, it's way higher.
Oh, that's Canada-wise.
Okay, maybe Canada-wide. Around GTA, it's like 400 or 500%.
It's now become a $1 billion a year problem.
Yeah.
Just car theft is
I know.
$1 billion a year problem.
I know.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. So that's been the Liberal report card. There's more, but honestly, we're going to run out of time if we keep talking about it.
We'll just switch gears, and then I want to talk about in general. We'll keep it as simple as possible. So what their political platform is, and I have a couple of short points here. So Carney, the Liberals, what they're putting forward in the next upcoming election. On its face, maybe I'm a little bit biased. I'm trying to be not biased. I'm trying to be objective here. It seems to be a lot of the same, and he's like just like this is another issue I have with him right now. They're kind of doing the Joe Biden strategy, where it's just like keep him down in the basement. Don't have too many media appearances.
It's true.
He's not answering questions, and the media are just protecting him because CBC are they're not asking tough questions. And God forbid if they do ask a tough question, he'll basically he'll shun them and say don't ever ask that question again.
Yep.
And then the journalist will be reprimanded by the CBC. So yeah, it's like I still feel, and I know a lot of other people feel the same way. I still feel like he's I still don't know who he is. And I had a question just before we get into the policies, actually. It's like, so the fear mongering going on right now with the U.S., it's like, Trump's this, Trump's that. And, they want our land, they want our country. Okay, maybe not. I don't really know. But it's just like, so a lot of voters who are planning to vote for the Liberal Party are going to say, the biggest issue for me is Donald Trump. We have to fight Donald Trump. My question for you is, okay, what does that mean? No, but seriously, what does that actually mean? Are you talking about counter tariffs? Well, counter tariffs, we've talked about this before. Counter tariffs are actually going to hurt us a lot more than it's going to hurt them.
Absolutely.
It's going to drive up the cost for Canadians. So so counter tariffs, that's not a good point. The second, how do you fight Donald Trump?
Because it's just become a slogan. It's just a slogan of like, we're going to fight the U.S., we're going to fight Trump. Okay, but first of all, what are we fighting against? Right? First, let's identify
and
the
this
issue.
is a serious question. Like, what are you fighting? I don't. Or how are you going to fight? I don't understand it. And it's like, oh well, we're going to fight him from invading Canada. Okay, well, newsflash. Let's just say that he does want to invade Canada one day. Like, what are we going to do about it? I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. Like, what is Canada actually going to do about that if he decides to invade or take our resources? I would prefer he doesn't. But what if he wants to? Well, he's going to. Okay, so next, what? Okay, so how is he going to fight him?
And fight him on what? Again, let's define. What are we fighting against?
Exactly.
Trump wants to work with us. He's more than happy to work with us, but he wants a partner that's going to pull its weight.
Yes.
Right? And also do a bit of his bidding. I understand he wants to put America first, but You know, it reminds me, this is going to be a really weird analogy. You know those fish that latch on to sharks? They're always swimming with the sharks, right? I forgot the name of that fish, right? Those fish are weak and kind of useless, but they feed off all the scraps that the shark eats. So they get fed, and in exchange, they keep the shark nice and clean, right? It's not a parasitic, but it's a mutual relationship, right?
It's a small fish. Yeah, it's just like he's dependent on the shark.
And he's also protected by the shark, by the way, because no one's going to come attack a shark. You know what I mean? So the fish is safe. Well, Canada, we're like that fish. Right? It's crazy, but the US will lead. It will do its thing. We pick up the money and the economy from them. The national defense.
We piggyback off.
Yeah,
for sure.
We're also protected by them, which is a huge thing that we're not considering enough, because if the US was not our southern neighbor, best believe China and Russia would be taking all of the Arctic in no time. No time. We can't defend ourselves. You know?
I agree.
But in exchange, we also have to clean the shark. We have to do a little bit of its bidding, right? So the US wants us to do a few things: develop certain resources, protect our borders, have a proper immigration policy. That's what it wants from us.
It wants a strong Canada not because they're nice people, but because it will also benefit the United States.
Absolutely. And so we can stay sovereign. We can stay our own country. We can have the best of both worlds if only we worked with the US. And that means, yes, a few concessions. So what? We're going to win. Why don't you want to win? It's like we want to lose. We want to lose. This is just about falling on your own sword for the sake of falling on your own sword at this point. You know?
Yeah, but it's like, well, I want to elect Carney because I think he's going to be better at dealing with Trump. Like, I just would like to ask that person that question. Okay, what dealing with Trump? How? About what? Like, what are we actually? It's a serious question. Just like, what are we fighting here? You know what I mean? Like, we have to fight Trump. And it's just like, okay, well, do you ever take a step back and maybe want to think that the media is just riling you up? And it's like, you're basically just, this is a vote against. So Mark Carney, in your eyes, is a vote against Pierre Poilievre, who is by default associated with Donald Trump. That's kind of, so you're not voting for the political platform that you're not voting for the party that you think has the best political platform. It's just a vote against Trump. And so anyway, here, let's get into the actual policies. So Carney, he wants to have tariffs on U.S. goods. I mean, like I said, that's definitely not going to help Canada. It's just going to increase the costs of goods and services for Canadians. He wants to reduce the reliance on U.S. for global trade. All right, cool. I'm down with that. I can definitely get on board with that. He wants to have a whopping 1% tax reduction for people making under $57,000 per year. Woo, $500. And then housing and affordability. So guys, and this is another thing too. If a government, conservative, NDP, liberal, you name the party, says that they're going to increase housing starts up to 500,000 units per year, they are lying to you. This is never going to happen, not anytime soon at least. There's way too much red tape. It takes way too long to actually start building a house. The record we had, I think it was in the 200,000s. I want to say 270,000. This was back in the 70s. That's the all-time record for housing starts. We are not going to double that over the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. So just an FYI, any party that says they're going to have 500,000 housing starts in a year, they are lying to you.
Absolutely.
He has no mention about being tougher on crime. He said he wants to continue his equitable values. He wants to stay focused on his net zero campaign. And again, so it's like, all right, are you going to build more pipelines or not? Well, net zero would kind of, in my eyes, I feel like there's just another way of saying, nah, man, I'm not really down with building more pipelines. So again, I kind of just feel like his political platform is very similar to what we've had over the last 10 years. I just think that he'll probably be a little bit more effective and efficient at executing this plan. Mm-hmm. And then if we go to Pierre Poilievre's policies, all right, so the first one, this is a nice one. So he wants to have a 15% tax reduction, so potentially saving the average worker approximately $900 annually. Capital gains tax release. I agree with this. I think it's good policy, but we've talked about this before. I think it's too complicated and not applicable for the average person. So I don't know why they would be spending marketing dollars around this. And I'm just a little caveat. I am very disappointed with how the Conservatives, I don't know who their marketing person is right now. I think they're doing an absolutely terrible job delivering their message. Yeah. I'm really, really disappointed with how they're doing it. And the fact that you guys had a 25-point lead and are now technically down in the polls, I think, especially after the track record the Liberals have had over the last 10 years, I think is poor execution.
I just want to touch on that a little bit because I had a discussion with that friend of mine, that insider source that I keep having to tell you guys it's a trust me bro case.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
But I have a good discussion with. I spoke to him on the phone 2 days ago, and I asked him about it. I'm like, aren't you disappointed with the way the Conservatives have run their campaign? He's like, absolutely. They've been fucking it up. And the issue is that Poilievre stayed in the whole I'm the opposition leader's mentality. So it's always about attacking Carney, attacking Carney, attacking Carney. The problem is Carney is a slippery motherfucker. People are just like, he's brand new, he's shiny. People don't associate Carney to all the liberal issues that have been going on for 10 years. So attacking Carney was not the strategy. Now this week, Poilievre's taken a shift in his tactic. He's pivoted. Now it's more about, here's my plan, here's how we're going to go forward with it. Finally bring ideas. And his ideas are good. It's about messaging, or it's about properly conveying the ideas.
Yeah.
But he's taking a different stance, and hopefully we're going to see that in the debate as well. But it's not going to be so much about attacking. I mean, he was on Tout le monde en parle recently, like a French show, right? Yeah. And he did not spend a second during that show attacking Carney. It was all about his plan. And I think that's going to resonate with voters a lot more because, again, Carney right now is too slippery. People just don't associate him to the Liberals' failures. Sadly, I mean, he is responsible for it. He was attached to the Liberals for the longest time. But anyway, so that was just a thing. There's been a pivot, and hopefully we're seeing right now a shift, a trend swing in the polls right now. The Conservatives are coming back up a bit.
I think the polls would suggest that the honeymoon phase is over for Carney. Well, remains to be seen. So here's just a couple more points. So tax-free savings account, he wants to increase that. Housing and affordability, so GST elimination on new homes. The Liberals are also proposing that. Development charge incentive. So we were discussing this a little bit earlier. Offer municipalities up to $25,000 per unit to reduce development charges, aiming to lower housing costs. So if 33% of the cost of construction is related to development charges, that obviously needs to drop. This would immediately have an effect on making housing more affordable. I'm honestly a little bit skeptical that housing is ever going to be affordable in Canada, just because the banks don't want their portfolio to drop by 20%, 30%. So.
And neither do people. Like, the reality is that most Canadians own their home.
Yes.
It's actually, sorry, but it's suicide to drop the price of housing in Canada.
And there's a saying, it's like everyone wants affordable housing, they just don't want it to be their house.
There you go. Well, it's like the good old NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard. Everyone wants more housing, just not in my backyard.
Exactly. Energy and environment. The biggest one, the carbon tax repeal. So an actual full-blown repeal, we don't need to get into that. He's all, parading around saying that. Regulatory reform, repeal the Impact Assessment Act and the Canadian Energy Regulator Act to expedite approvals for resource projects like pipelines and mining. There hasn't been a new mining project in Canada, I want to say, in 5 years, which is insane.
That's wild.
It's insane. National Energy Corridor, establish a nationwide corridor to streamline the development of energy infrastructure. National security and justice. So let's look at criminal justice reform. Enforce stricter sentencing for serious crimes. I agree. Including mandatory life sentences for human trafficking and fentanyl distribution. Invoke the notwithstanding clause to allow consecutive parole and eligibility periods for multiple murder convictions. And let's look at social and cultural policies. Public broadcasting, he's talked about this as well. I don't agree with him talking about this politically. Defund the English language operations of the CBC while maintaining funding for Radio Canada's French language services. Opposition to woke policies. Commit to eliminating what he describes as a woke culture from federal institutions, including the military and public service. Good luck with that. Immigration policy. So grant Quebec greater authority to select temporary immigrants under the International Mobility Program.
Don't we have that already?
Maybe we do, maybe we don't, so don't quote me on that. But essentially, like, the point I'm trying to make is let's look at it this way. He's actually putting forth new policies.
Yeah.
He's talking about them. The carbon tax. He wants to build new pipelines. He wants to be tougher on crime. He wants to try and make housing a little bit less expensive. That I would say is his political platform. And again, the issue I have with Mark Carney and the Liberals, he is not really talking about his political platform. And he has to play a game of whack-a-mole because he has to kind of like disassociate himself from the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think he knows he wants to continue these policies. Yeah. So he's got a really tough job ahead of him. And I think this is why he's just not really answering questions right now about like, all right, dude, what are your policies? I'm going to make housing more affordable. Okay, well, you guys have been saying that for the last 10 years. What about like the reliance that we have in the U.S., I'm going to make us less reliant to the United States. Okay, well, if you don't want to build pipelines, how are you going to make us less reliant? Oh, I'm going to bring back auto manufacturing to Canada. How are you going to do that? I'm going to impose a tariff that if you don't build it here in Canada, this is a perfect example. He's doing this in Ontario. If you don't build the cars here, because Honda is actually looking to ship some jobs over to the United States.
Yeah.
He's like, well, if you do that, well, we're going to impose a 25% tariff. Okay, well, like, they're going to go, well, why would we want to stay in the U.S. then? Why would we want to stay in Canada? Let's just go down to the U.S.
And furthermore, Canada, sorry to say, our economy is not big enough that our tariffs are going to like stop a huge manufacturer like Honda.
Yes.
From they're going to be like, okay, cool. Like Canada now becomes a lost market. UPD fucking do. We can cut cost of production for the rest of the world.
Yes.
We actually stand to bet the numbers. They're going to crush the numbers. Obviously, they're a huge company, and they're going to realize, you know what? Even if we lost like 50% of our business in Canada, we're still up ahead by moving to the U.S. and not having to deal with the American tariffs.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And like I can kind of, again, it remains to be seen if this is actually going to play out, like with all the tariffs and stuff going on in the U.S. But the idea behind it is they want to bring manufacturing back to the U.S.
Yep.
That's the idea behind it. Okay?
Absolutely.
Will it work? Let's find out. Canada cannot compete with that because it's not an investable place at this point in time. The red tape is too much. The taxes are too high.
Yeah.
Businesses aren't going to come here. And especially if the United States are right next door, they're all just going to go next door.
Exactly.
So if you want to play this tariff game to bring manufacturing back to Canada, I got news flash. It's not going to work. It's just going to make services and products more expensive for Canadians. So again, I guess let's just say I'll let you add on your comments right after this. From what my analysis of the policies put forward, to me it seems the Liberals kind of just want to continue what they're doing, and he's not answering questions. And the Conservatives actually want to implement change for the country.
There's a plan. They're sucking at it, explaining it properly.
Yes.
But regarding the affordable housing, real quick, that cracks me up. I saw this meme. It was 3 pictures, and you have Trudeau in front of a podium that says making Canada's affordable housing, whatever, in 2015, another one in 2021, and then you have Carney in 2025. It's the same slogan, making Canada's housing affordable. It's like, bro, you've done the opposite, but this time around, you're going to get it. You're going to fucking get it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, look, I'll end on this point, right? I saw this comment the other day on one of our videos, and the guy was saying, well, how the fuck are we supposed to be rich or to become a wealthy country when we have the U.S. next door and they're doing X, Y, Z against us? And I said, no, dude, you're not looking at it from the right perspective. The U.S. being next door is the biggest opportunity we've ever had. We have the world's largest market at our fucking front door, ready to gobble up all of what we produce, all of the natural resources we can extract, all of the things we manufacture. This could bring untold wealth to this country. I mean, every country wants to deal with the US, but they have to deal with geography, shipping, and logistics. We have nearly none of this. We're connected. We're tethered at the hips with them. We could be so wealthy if we only developed our resources, which we are hell-bent on not doing for some reason.
I hope it changes, but I think that's a good place to end it at. Thanks, Elliot.
Thanks, dude.
Guys, Right Call Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, like, subscribe, share it with a friend. We've definitely been getting more views, so we definitely appreciate you guys watching and commenting. And yeah, we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about it, but we're thinking about maybe launching a Patreon. You know, I think it'd be good to have a few people, because we have supporters, we have people reach out to us, but right now there's no way that it can truly help us. So maybe we can launch a little something.
Yeah,
and give back to them, but also it helps us, increase production value, be as independent as we can humanly be.
Yeah,
and maybe even do this more than just on the side for fun, in between running our businesses.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I totally agree. It's very expensive to produce podcasts, a lot more expensive than people think.
Hell yeah. Shams, come online and tell. Okay.
Thanks, Elliot. Yeah.